Don't let your favorite influencer fool you. Don't let Instagram fool you. Don't let Pinterest fool you. Hi friends, Atem here, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you are stopping in for the second time. No matter the time that you're stopping in, I hope you have subscribed, because I really have interesting content planned for this channel. So please make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. So in today's video, I will be discussing different myths of self-care. I know I have discussed this current myth on my Instagram page, and before I even discuss the myth, I just want to also really highly recommend you watch this video after you've watched this video. So this is the video I want you to watch, and it is basically discussing the different dimensions of wellness, which is very similar to self-care. So that video will basically put everything into perspective for those of you who are not very familiar with the term self-care, because I know and I'm very sure that a lot of people, when they hear about self-care, is only the internet version of self-care, or the Pinterest or the Instagram definition of self-care that actually comes to mind. So without making this video really long, we will go ahead and get started. I also want to let everybody know that self-care can be different for everybody, and it can also change. So for example, me sitting in a bubble bath may not be something that you may want to do. I have a lot of friends who don't like sitting in the bubble bath. I have a lot of friends who don't like candles. I have some friends who don't like reading books, and that's all self-care to me. So it can be different from person to person, and it can also be different depending on what is going on in your mind, in your life at the time. So for example, if you're burned out or stressed, your self-care practices could be different from if you just feel low energy and stuff. So again, self-care is not one size fits all. So at every point in your life, you have to reevaluate at what self-care actually means to you and what you're actually going to gravitate towards. So with the first definition is from dictionary.com, and it defines self-care as the act of attending to one's physical or mental health, generally without medical or other professional consultation. And then I also looked at Oxford Dictionaries, which defines self-care as the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. So the next one is from Merriam-Webster, and it defines self-care as to care for oneself. So just notice that all of these definitions do not really tell you how it is done, because again, it's different for everybody. So don't let your favorite influencer fool you. Don't let Instagram fool you. Don't let Pinterest fool you. So we will go ahead and talk about the different myths. I have prepped about 8 myths, and this is what I posted on my Instagram feed. So that's what we'll basically be reacting on. So let's go ahead and get started. So the very first myth is that self-care is optional. And I really wish it were optional, to be honest, because sometimes I want to be recharged with a battery versus having to sleep, for example, or eat or hydrate. But anyways, so things like sleeping or hydrating or eating healthy, obviously those types of things are that obviously self-care, or exercise, and that's self-care. So you can't say self-care is optional. I feel like those who think that self-care is optional only have a particular conception of what self-care should be, but all of these things are very necessary. And of course, if you don't do all of these things, then you're susceptible to burnout or being emotionally drained, physically drained, and everything. So no, self-care is not optional. Second myth says self-care is selfish, and I would definitely disagree on this. I don't know if anybody has tried to pour from an empty cup. I think I've been there at some point where you're really drained and somebody else needs your attention, and you're not able to give to them because you don't have enough fuel in your body. So obviously you have to fuel yourself before you fuel others. I know even in the airplanes, for those of you who have taken several flights, whenever the air hostesses are giving like the pre-flight signs, they always tell you that in the case of no oxygen, please wear your mask before you wear another person's masks. And that's because it's only after you wear your mask before you be fully able to help somebody else. So it's the same concept, or a similar concept. So obviously you have to foil yourself before you're foiling other people. If you live around people who tell you that you're selfish for taking care of yourself, then these people don't understand what it means to take care of yourself, because you're supposed to be able, unless, I mean, somebody is in dire need of something and the person's fuel is very low and their battery is lower than yours, then those are the little ones, the little times that you can make exceptions. But other than that, it's very advisable to fuel yourself first, feed yourself, feed your soul, and that way you're going to be more empowered to feed somebody else. So the third myth says self-care is only for women. And whenever I see this, I'm always like, okay, show me where in the Bible this is written. Like, you guys, you need to back up your claims. Again, this is probably from the social media, because a lot of women are the ones who are most likely to, post about different things, self-care. But I've seen a lot of self-care posts from men too. So I'm not sure why everybody thinks self-care is only for women. I mean, don't men get burned out too? I thought they did. I mean, if they didn't, then I'm probably in the wrong gender. I feel like everybody at the end of the day would benefit from self-care. Again, depending on what you define self-care to be as. Maybe somebody defining self-care to be as wearing lipstick. In that case, self-care is for women. But if it's just fueling yourself and rejuvenating and getting some rest and preventing burnout, then self-care is definitely for both genders. The fourth myth says that self-care is the same for everybody, and that is obviously very wrong, because everybody, no matter if you're identical twin or your spirit twin or anyone or whoever, at every time in life or at every stage, you guys are going through different stressors, and when you're going through different stressors, you react to your stressors differently, and you're also going through different phases in life. Sometimes you and your identical twin, for example, one person might want to do a more intensive workout versus the other person. One person might want to go to retail for shopping therapy. The other person might want to just sit home and watch movies. So it depends. Like I'm just giving like a really vague example, but I'm saying even if it's an identical twin, they are going through different phases and they react to every phase differently. So of course, self-care cannot be the same for everyone unless somebody is faking it. Somebody has to fake it for you and your best friend or whoever, your family member, your favorite influencer, to be going through the same self-care practices every day together. Like, that's not happening. That doesn't happen anywhere. Please let me know if you've seen that happen anywhere, because I don't know. I'm just saying based on my research and all of that. So the fifth myth, which is one of the myths that has one of the biggest misconceptions, is that self-care is expensive. I'm pretty sure when you guys hear that, these are the pictures that come to mind. I know. I mean, self-care does not necessarily mean indulgence, and that's something that I'll really try to debunk. Self-care, definitely, we've discussed the different types of self-care and what it means. If you follow me on Instagram, you're going to be able to know how to properly self-care. But I think that there are different activities for self-care that you can do that doesn't necessarily involve indulgence, and especially free ones. There are taking a walk in the park, going to the beach, watching TV at home, lighting a candle at home, taking a bubble bath. There's just so many other examples of self-care that doesn't have to deal with a lot of money. If self-care were expensive, that means only those who could afford it are deserving to take care of themselves and prevent burnout, which is not true. I feel like everybody deserves to be well taken care of. Again, I know this particular definition is driven from social media, and there's nothing wrong if you want to indulge, because sometimes even me, like, if you want to treat yourself, but you can't only rely on treating yourself as a form of self-care, because what if at some point you can't treat yourself? Like, if you, God forbid, you run out of money, or you're tired of spending so much money because of self-care and you just want to do something low-key, that means you're just not going to be able to fuel yourself or be able to rejuvenate. So I definitely disagree with the concept that self-care is expensive. If you think that self-care is expensive, please reach out to me. I will give you a long list of something, or a lot of things that you can do for free. 99 $0.99. In fact, $0.00000. I don't know what I'm saying. All right, the next one. So the sixth one says self-care is only for special occasions, and I will agree if a special occasion to you is every day. Again, I'm pretty sure these are the images that come up when you think about special occasions, and that is not correct. I think that, in my Instagram page, I try to share different ways you can practice self-care during the week, during the weekend, and everything. And I think that you can try to incorporate self-care as your daily routine. That way you don't wait until something happens. So it's like preventative medicine, right? Like rather than wait until you're sick, try to prevent being sick with the different practices. And sometimes I understand busy people, like I like to cater for busy people because I'm a busy person myself. But even if you put in like 15 minutes a day, for extra time for yourself, I think that's going to be very helpful. If you just say, I'm going to block out some time today, and maybe after 8 p.m., I'm just not going to do anything brain consuming. Maybe I'm just going to relax and watch a movie, or I'm going to talk to my family members or friends, or I'm going to listen to my favorite comedy show or my favorite music, anything like that. I don't think you have to wait for a special occasion to do it unless you really hate yourself. You don't want to be drained, you don't want to be exhausted. So the seventh myth says that self-care takes a lot of time. And I am not going to lie to you, there was a point in my life that I actually suffered from not being able to prioritize and take out time for myself. And I think that's one of the motivations, or something that motivated me to be talking a lot about self-care. So for me, again, similar to the last point, you just have to take out that time. Like, I understand that you have a father, that you're taking care of a mother, you have kids, you have your 10 pets, you have a neighbor that's demanding, you have a full-time job, 10 side hustles, 15 hobbies. I understand that, but at the end of the day, you cannot be good at everything every day, if you know what I mean. Like, you can't wake up tomorrow and be like, hey, today I'm going to be the best at being a coworker, a boss, a sister, a brother, a wife, a husband, a partner, anything, and then you're still taking good care of yourself. Like, that doesn't happen to anybody. We're all humans. And at the end of the day, again, you have to refresh, you have to rejuvenate, you have to relax, because otherwise you're not going to be able to pour into other people. So again, you just have to be conscious about taking out the time for yourself. I know there is so many other times, and this is one of the best ways, right? Just think about your entire day and think about where you were perhaps spending too much time that did not bring out a lot of value, and try to cut that time and put it into your bringing out value to yourself, or spending time to refresh or rejuvenate, or prevent burnout, exhaustion, or being overwhelmed. Because the main reason I'm saying this is because whenever me, for example, I try to reevaluate my time, I do realize that I'm spending so much time on social media. I'm spending so much time watching YouTube videos that don't really bring any purpose to me. I'm spending so much time on the phone with friends and family, or sometimes we're just talking, things that don't add any value on the phone. And sometimes, you have to be very conscious of your time, because time is very valuable. It's one of the most expensive assets that whenever you lose, it's difficult to get back. And if you can spend that time on yourself, and especially if it's something that brings you joy, then it's something that I would highly encourage. So definitely try to look at your time spent throughout the day and see if there's anything that you can cut back in order to give that time to yourself. And it also includes saying no to people. Like, sometimes people have crazy requests, and if you cannot do it, you cannot do it. I'm not saying you should be mean, but I'm assuming that everybody watching me is an adult, right? So just try to evaluate your time and see where you're spending more time, and try to cut it back and spend time for yourself. So the eighth and the last myth is that self-care is, or it could be, anything that makes you feel good. And I wish that were the case, but this is actually no. So for example, and I use this example on my Instagram page, I was like, does that mean that if drinking martinis make me feel good, I should drink all the martinis in the world? Hell no, I can't do that. Eating junk food, I love eating junk food, but I cannot be eating junk food every time because it's my form of self-care. You can't do that. But you can always find a thin line, you know what I mean? Like, everything in moderation. So for me, I would use an example of watching movies. Like, I try to watch at least a comedy show or a movie in the evenings, especially during the weekday. I really try to, that's one of the self-care that I'm gravitating to, like a few hours before bedtime, not necessarily at bedtime. But imagine if I were trying to watch like a TV show and watching this TV show back to back. I know I had a situation during the pandemic where I watched season 1 to 8 of Game of Thrones in, was it 3 days? That was ridiculous, because that was crazy because I had a lot of sleepless nights, and I was lying to myself that it's a form of self-care. But how is it a form of self-care if the next day in the morning you're barely able to function? Whereas, again, I say it's a thin line, because you can just watch like one episode or one short movie and then call it a day and go to rest, and then the next day you continue. So I think a lot of self-control is involved in this, and this is something that we all have to think about and prioritize as we are planning our own individual paths to wellness. So that brings us to the end of the video. I'm not sure if any of you have heard about these myths. Have you heard about these myths? What do you think? Which of these myths do you agree or disagree with? Please let us know down in the comment section. Thank you again for stopping by in this video and watching me, and I hope you click on my next videos. I will leave them on the screen. When you click on them, I will see you on the other side. Thank you again. Bye bye.